I'm a male beta, living in a world where everything revolves around alphas and omegas. Everywhere I look, I see AO couples exchanging flirty glances. Doesn't matter the time or place, whenever an alpha and omega lock eyes or get caught up in a heat cycle, sparks fly. Just like now. In the middle of the quiet, keyboard-filled office, a young omega suddenly stood up, trembling. His face flushed red, and he staggered toward the restroom that was exclusively for omegas. People around him instinctively covered their noses, sneaking glances in his direction. Halfway there, he suddenly collapsed, as if his body gave out. At the last second, an alpha caught him. That alpha's ears turned red, clearly struggling to hold himself back. He said, "I'll take you to the hospital, okay?" Then, with the omega leaning against him, they both left the office. No one seemed surprised, like nothing unusual had happened. Except me, I was full of envy. At first, I reacted like everyone else, numb. But as time went on, I couldn't help but feel longing. The fantasy of spending a steamy night with a hot alpha started looping in my head every single day. But I'm a beta. Which means, even if AOs are in heat, I still have to clock in. Even if AOs just got married, I've got to work overtime. And sometimes I'm dragged in just to add some spice to their bland married life. I'm just a beta who's been single since birth, 20-something, overworked, and underloved. I want an alpha boyfriend too. No, just an alpha hookup would be enough. But I sighed. In this kind of story, pheromones are everything. Nearly every AO interaction is sparked by pheromones. And me? I don't have pheromones. I have no outstanding qualities. A beta like me isn't even on the radar of an alpha, let alone part of the plot. I glanced at my beta coworkers, all buried in work like me. The ache in my heart faded just a little. I thought I'd die alone. But then, something unexpected happened. I found an alpha. An alpha in the middle of his heat. 2. In a narrow alley, the alpha's breathing was labored, sweat beading on his forehead. He was stumbling along the wall, barely staying upright. Just before he reached the end of the alley, his body gave out and he slid down against the wall, collapsing. He let out a low groan, heavy with frustration and pain. The sound made the tips of my ears burn. Normally, I wouldn't take this shortcut. But I left work late today, so I decided to cut through here. Didn't expect to stumble on such a surprise. I hid in the shadows, heart pounding like crazy. There was less than 3 meters between me and the alpha. Under the dim glow of the street lamp, I carefully checked him out. No ring. No one showed up looking for him. His exposed skin looked clean, no signs of infection or anything sketchy. After that quick scan, I mustered up my courage and stepped closer. Hey! Can you hear me? The alpha's brows were furrowed, and his clothes were soaked through with sweat. His collar was loose, sleeves rolled up, revealing just enough skin to set someone's imagination running wild, especially for someone like me. He opened his eyes and looked in my direction. What do you want? His voice was low, laced with irritation. I asked, do you have a boyfriend? He gave me a glare that practically screamed, are you serious? Are you insane? He looked like a stray alpha, unkempt and unwanted. Perfect. I clenched my fists, practically vibrating with excitement. As much as I wanted to drag him home and go to town on him, I knew I had to get his consent first. Okay, I know this might sound weird, but I'd like to help you through your heat. I'm healthy, disease-free, and I've got a normal full-time job. Would that be okay with you? This was the kind of scene Drake hated most. Ever since he presented as an alpha, omegas had been swarming him non-stop. They were like NPC mobs in a game, no matter how many he dodged, a new batch would show up. Over the years, he'd come to hate it all. Omegas, pheromones, anything that came with an ulterior motive. So, even when his body was desperate, he'd rather suffer than ask for help. But this time was different. The constant suppression had pushed his glands to their limit, every breath felt like a knife in his neck. Suppressants had stopped working. If it kept up, the damage to his body could be permanent. His mind was a fog, instincts screaming for release. Drake's gaze landed on the beta in front of him. Compared to those omegas who lathered themselves in saccharine pheromones, this beta seemed tolerable. At least he was polite. Didn't pounce on him right away. Not bad looking either. I could feel his stare, and my lips tightened without thinking. He looked me up and down, then asked hoarsely, "What do you want?" Drake didn't believe for a second that I had no hidden agenda. What do I want? My mind went blank for a second, then it hit me. Oh. Don't worry, I'm not after your money or anything. I'm a beta, I can't get pregnant anyway. I just, kinda always wondered what it's like to be with an alpha. After a long pause, the alpha finally nodded. I broke into a huge grin, then crouched down and hoisted him onto my back. Then, without another word, I sprinted all the way home. 3. The scent of shampoo drifted through the air with each swing of my hair. Drake couldn't help himself, he leaned in and took a sniff. It was a light fragrance, mixed with something that was uniquely mine. For some reason, Drake found it pleasant. I didn't notice what he was doing. Instead, I was focused on something I'd been secretly looking forward to. The outline of his body, the weight, the firmness. I couldn't hide my smile, and my steps picked up pace. As soon as we got through the door, Drake pulled me into his arms. His breathing was chaotic as he buried his face in the crook of my neck, inhaling deeply, fingers already tugging at my clothes in a hurry. I stopped him. Wait a sec. Drake looked annoyed, jaw clenched tight. The veins on his neck stood out, he was clearly running out of patience. What? Didn't you say you wanted to help me through my heat? He leaned in, close enough that one more inch and we'd be kissing. I blinked and spoke up with hesitation. It's just that. Drake cut me off, growling low, spit it out. That alley you collapsed in? It's not exactly clean. People and stray animals pee there all the time. Sometimes there's even trash lying around, it's really dirty. And, well, with all the sweating and falling earlier, you kind of smell a little. 4. After he showered, we moved to the bed right away. Drake didn't waste time, he was urgent, skipping most of the build-up. I saw stars, completely frozen from the pain. But it didn't take long for an entirely different sensation to take over. That night, I finally understood what real pleasure meant. To help Drake through his heat, I took 2 rare days off work. In those 2 days, we did everything together, ate, showered, even slept holding each other. By the 3rd day, Drake finally began to slow down. On the morning I had to return to work, I woke up to find him still asleep. I secretly stared at him for a while. Sharp features, lean muscles, strong presence, definitely an alpha. Satisfied, I gave his but a little pat. Drake frowned in his sleep but didn't wake. I carefully slid out of bed and cleaned myself up in the bathroom. After washing up, I pulled out all the cash I had in my wallet. Drake didn't seem like the type of alpha who'd charge for this kind of thing. But still, it was me who initiated it, and he put in a lot of, well, effort. It felt wrong to just leave without showing some appreciation. I tucked 10 bills under his clothes. Then, after thinking a moment, I left a note. I had a great time these past few days. You worked hard. It's not much, but here's something for a nice meal. You may be an alpha, but don't neglect your health. No need to clean up, just leave when you're ready. If you're open to it, we can collaborate again sometime. After everything was done, I got dressed, grabbed the full trash bag, and quietly left. 5. The alpha left. But he didn't take the money. He only left behind a watch. I had no idea what brand it was. I picked it up, looked at it for a bit, then tossed it into a drawer. Just yesterday this room had been filled with fire and passion. Now, it was cold and empty, just me, a lonely little beta. I was sure the room still held traces of his pheromones. Too bad I was a beta. I couldn't smell a thing. I shook my head, deciding to treat the past few days as a wild life experience. A little plot twist in my otherwise boring life. A few days later, I was working late again and decided to take the shortcut home. In the familiar alley, I saw a familiar figure, lying in a familiar spot, panting. This time, I knew the routine. I brought him back home with practiced ease. Drake didn't seem as out of it as last time. I glanced down. Still a strong reaction. As soon as we got inside, he pushed me away and stood at a distance, full of suspicion. Drake was furious. All he did was have dinner with his parents, and they drugged him. They even hid an Omega they liked in his room, clearly hoping something would accidentally happen. Thankfully, he was still alert enough to climb out the second-floor window. He left in such a rush he didn't even take his phone, just ran straight toward the hospital. And then, halfway there, he ran into this beta again. Drake forced himself upright, glaring like a cornered, angry dog. "What the hell do you want from me?" I blinked, confused. "What do you mean?" "I just saw you collapsed again, so I brought you home. That's all." Drake didn't answer. He rubbed his hair roughly, muttering curses under his breath. I took the hint and moved to the side, giving him space to think. The alpha was restless, breathing hard, flushed, clearly aroused. Looking at him, I started getting suspicious. Aren't alpha heat cycles supposed to be less frequent than this? "Wanna make a deal?" I asked Drake. He tensed up. "What kind of deal?" I said it straight. "Physical. I'm a beta. Outside of work, I don't really get the chance to be around alphas. But I've always been curious about what it's like to, do that kind of thing." I paused. "Last time, I think we both had a good time, right? Your pheromones need an outlet. And I've got needs too. So why not help each other out? If you need a place to stay, I can provide meals and a bed. And if you want to end the deal anytime, I won't stop you. Oh, and don't worry, I'm single. No emotional drama." Drake narrowed his eyes, studying me. "Is that really all you want?" I glanced him over. His clothes were dirty, covered in dust and grime. That watch he left? Didn't even recognize the brand. What could I possibly want from him? I shook my head. Nope. Finally, Drake seemed to realize something. "You don't know who I am." I replied, "Do you only do business with people you know?" 6. After weighing the pros and cons, Drake agreed. On one hand, he really didn't want to deal with his parents and those clingy Omegas anymore. On the other hand, with the state his body was in, he did need someone to help him relieve the intense buildup of pheromones. This beta didn't recognize him and probably wouldn't try to cling on afterward. He could just leave a bit of thank you money when it was over. More importantly, this guy didn't reek of those overpowering, syrupy pheromones that gave him a headache. Drake swayed and collapsed onto the bed. The sound of water running from the bathroom made it impossible for him to keep holding back. When I stepped out of the shower, the first thing I saw was the alpha sprawled on the bed. Broad shoulders, a narrow waist, every casual movement looked like it belonged on the cover of a magazine. He had his back to me, and his arm was moving fast. I could smell the faint scent in the air. It was exactly the same as the one from those days we spent together. Caught off guard by the scene, my throat tightened and my body tensed. I crept closer, unable to resist taking in the rare and intimate view. Drake had always been hot, but right now, there was something even more intoxicating about him. He didn't notice me watching, while I stood there swallowing hard, finally unable to stop myself from speaking. "Actually, I'd be happy to help." 7. Drake's face had only been faintly flushed at first. But after what just happened, even the tips of his ears turned crimson. I coughed awkwardly. Drake turned his head, eyes dark. The next second, everything spun. Before I could react, Drake had pulled me under him. He didn't move right away, just propped himself up on his arms and looked down at me. "You sure?" His voice was hoarse, confirming again. Seriously, He was already this worked up, why was he still asking questions? Drake must be a pretty inexperienced alpha. Before I completely lost consciousness, I gave the hard-working alpha a thumbs up and offered a sincere compliment straight from the heart. I ended up letting Drake crash at my place. Since I only had one bedroom, I made a floor bed next to mine, figured it'd be easier if we needed to wrestle in the middle of the night. Having such an attractive alpha around made my sleep quality skyrocket. The only downside was that Drake didn't talk to me much. Most of the time, he was either doing push-ups or sit-ups in the bedroom, or watching financial news in front of the TV. When he was really bored, he'd even cook a few meals for me. One morning, Drake got up and was lounging on the couch watching TV. I couldn't help myself, looking at his abs made my mouth water, and I whistled at him as I left. He glanced at me but didn't say anything. What he didn't realize was that, thanks to him indulging me that one time, I'd completely unleashed my true nature. When he wasn't paying attention, I'd sneak in a quick grope. When he showered, I'd shamelessly press up against the glass door. When he watched finance programs, I'd dance around and strike seductive poses right in front of the screen. Even at work, I'd send flirty texts to the backup phone I got just for him. At first, Drake tried to ignore it and just snapped back verbally. "Are you always this, unhinged?" I shook my head. "I used to be pretty proper. But you brought this out of me." Then I gave him a look. Feeling honored? Drake rubbed his temples. "Don't talk to me." Eventually, he really couldn't take it anymore. He grabbed me and threw me onto the bed. Didn't stop until I couldn't catch my breath, body limp, too drained to even lift a hand. "If you don't want to be worn out like this again," he muttered while putting his clothes back on, "then quit messing around. How many times has it been already? You never learn." What he didn't see was the way I grinned wildly behind his back, satisfied and just a little insane. Stupid alpha. So easy to fool. Drake kept me so well fed, physically and emotionally, that I didn't even feel tired at work anymore. Just thinking about the strong, powerful alpha waiting for me at home made me smile like an idiot. I even found myself sneaking onto shopping websites, looking up little toys to spice things up. A fellow beta coworker leaned over. "Archie? What's with that goofy grin? Are you seeing someone?" My heart nearly jumped out of my chest. I quickly closed the browser. No, I lied casually. I got a dog recently." My coworker's eyes lit up. "Seriously? What kind? What's their name? Got pics?" I hesitated. "Not sure what breed." "Big one, don't have any photos." Big dogs are great. Super secure and comforting. But they've got tons of energy and love tearing up the house. You should walk it often, or buy it more toys so it doesn't get bored. Tear up the house. Drake's calm, expressionless face popped into my head. No. Drake isn't a dog. Realizing how off track I was getting, I shook the thought away. But the idea of toys to kill time actually made sense. Drake was always holed up at home. Aside from the bedroom activities, he didn't seem interested in much of anything. What if he got so bored he made himself sick? That very evening after work, I went and bought him a top-of-the-line gaming laptop. No man could resist the temptation of gaming. Except Drake. He glanced at it once and turned back to the TV. I was stunned. "You don't like it?" Drake shook his head. "Not really into it." Back in school, he had a phase where he was obsessed with games. He'd lock himself in his room and play non-stop. But maybe he overdid it, because eventually, he completely lost interest. "Looks expensive. You should return it." I stared at the brand new laptop in my hands, full of confusion. He didn't even like this. Then what was he interested in? "What do you like?" I asked. Drake stayed quiet for a long while. His eyes lowered slightly, pausing for a moment on my fair, smooth calves. "Nothing. I don't really have anything I'm into." 8. I thought it over and ordered some abstract toys online. Drake looked at those weird, twisted things with pure disgust. What the hell are these? I pushed the stuff in front of him. You wanna try? Drake sneered, how hard can it be to use these? He grabbed the bizarre toys but stared at them for a long time without figuring out how to play. I took them back. I'll show you. Here. I pressed the toy's base into a slot, and the twisted figure immediately screamed and writhed. Also this. I pulled out a flower-shaped toy with a seductive posture. As soon as I turned it on, the flower swayed in an S shape, and the microphone played a recording I made earlier. Drake, come on, have fun, we've got plenty of time. Drake's face darkened. He took the toy, recorded a "get lost" into it, and tossed it aside. He fiddled with the toys for a bit, then lost interest quickly. That's it? I pulled out a board game box. Ever played a two-player horror mystery game? Drake honestly shook his head. No worries. I opened the box and dumped all the props out. Let me explain. Drake listened carefully and unconsciously scooted closer to me. By the time I finished, his calm eyes had gained a serious, almost admiring look. He sat opposite me. Sounds interesting. Wanna play around? I nodded, sure. We played till midnight. A few times, I tried to hint at what might come next with subtle touches. Drake caught my meaning but wasn't quite done playing yet. In the end, I teased him so much he couldn't take it anymore. With a big sweep of his hand, he pulled me into his arms. There was some rustling, and I let out a low moan. Drake wasn't feeling great either, his brow furrowed in discomfort. Relax. I was getting into it when suddenly Drake grabbed my jaw and tilted my head forward. Like this, we keep playing. I was startled. No way. Why not? Drake frowned. Because, if you see my script, it ruins the game. Drake was taller than me. In that back hug position, all he had to do was look down to read my whole script. The room fell silent. I spoke again. If you see it, it's not fun anymore. How about we do it first, then keep playing tomorrow? It's late. Drake finally made a move. He turned me fully into his embrace. The heat from his body poured over me. It was the first time we'd been so close like this. His deep, hoarse voice whispered in my ear. This way, I can't see it. 9. Drake really got into these role-playing mystery games. After that, I bought several more sets for him. He'd play late into the night every time, and his mood brightened significantly. Sometimes he even joked with me. One morning, Drake was still asleep, with a pile of games stacked by his pillow. Half asleep, I stretched out a foot and nearly stepped on him, sprawled on the floor mattress. I carefully stepped around him, yawning as I headed to the kitchen, already thinking about what new games to get us next. By the time Drake woke up, the room was empty. He sat up and reached out, feeling the bed. Cold. He'd been out for a while. Drake tidied up the floor mattress and looked around the small, neat room. His own pheromones filled every corner. When he first arrived, Drake felt cramped, even the bedding the beta prepared was uncomfortable. Now, maybe from getting used to it, he found the place cozy and was visibly more relaxed. After a quick cleanup, Drake headed to the kitchen to make himself some coffee. A note was stuck to the coffee machine. I made lunch. It's in the fridge. Remember to heat it up before eating. A pleasant, tickling warmth spread through my chest. Drake's knuckles trembled slightly. He forced himself to stay calm, glanced at the note, and grabbed a cup. But after a few minutes, he turned back and took the note off the machine. He read it over and over, then buried his face in his hands, still clutching the note. After wrestling with his feelings, Drake couldn't lie to himself anymore. He liked this beta a lot, even the beta's usual teasing came off as adorable. He never expected to feel like this for someone, and that it would happen under these circumstances. Drake thought it through and figured it was the person. This beta was pure, kind, and easy to be around. He stood still for a while, then opened the fridge to see what the beta had cooked. Inside, Several hearty dishes were neatly arranged. Stir-fried garlic chives with eggs, red ginseng and deer antler soup, roasted kidneys, scallion lamb stir-fry. All nourishing foods. 10. Lately, Drake's been acting weird. Not only did he stop obsessing over the mystery games, but he also started asking strange questions. Can you tell me what your job is? Where's your company? Can I pick you up after work? When's your birthday? I didn't understand why he was asking, so I selectively answered some. Don't bother picking me up. You should just rest at home. Drake shut up and stayed silent for a moment. How about a walk together tonight? I declined again. Forget it. I'd rather just lie down at home. If you want to go out, you can, you have the keys, right? Besides, a night walk would cut into our time together later. I wasn't about to waste that precious time. Drake didn't speak after that. He sat off to the side, doing something I couldn't tell. That night, he moved especially slowly, almost like he was dragging it out. I was getting tormented and nearly went crazy, kicking and trying to escape from under him. But no matter how hard I struggled, I couldn't budge. I finally couldn't hold back anymore and spoke to Drake. His eyes lit up. If you're too tired, want to rest tonight? Drake. The next second, I almost fell flat on the floor. I found it a little strange but didn't think much of it, closing my eyes to enjoy the moment. 11. In the following days, I noticed Drake's mood was off. He seemed listless, spoke less, and even stopped exercising. Seeing him so down under the covers, I got really worried and pulled back his blanket to check. Drake looked terrible, and after I disturbed him, his face darkened even more. Don't touch me. I'm not in the mood today. Phew, that was a relief. I thought maybe something was wrong with him in that department. I relaxed and crawled back into bed. Halfway up, Drake suddenly grabbed my calf. His palm was rough, and where it touched, a faint tickle spread. Archie, he looked at me with rare seriousness in his eyes. I responded out of habit. We've known each other for a while now. Drake hesitated, his ears turning red. Have you ever thought about taking things further? What did he mean? I frowned. Haven't we already been pretty close? Drake stiffened. I didn't mean that. I mean, I want to take our feelings deeper. Silence hung in the air, but my mouth was quicker than my brain. Maybe it's better not to. Drake's thin lips pressed tight. Why not? I scratched my head, unsure how to answer. I just don't really want to. I'm a beta with no pheromones. I can't attract Drake or be marked by him. He'd probably be drawn to other omegas soon enough. And then I'd be left alone, a lonely beta nursing a broken heart. No thanks. It's better to keep things casual, fun, and drama-free for now. Besides, if I were to date seriously, I'd want someone with a stable job like me. So, you just want someone to satisfy your needs. I didn't know how to reply and stayed silent. Drake said nothing either. Suddenly, he stood up, grabbed his coat, and headed for the door. Bang! The loud noise echoed through the room. I was left sitting alone on the bed. I wrinkled my nose, tasting the bitterness of growing sadness. Before I could dwell on it too long, there was a knock at the door. I slipped on slippers and opened it. Drake was back. His eyes were sharp, fists clenched. Seeing him looking ready to fight, I instinctively searched for something to defend myself with. Luckily, Drake didn't do anything. Have you often done this kind of deal with alphas before? No, I shook my head. This is the first time. Finding a good alpha like this wasn't something you bumped into every day. Drake's expression softened. He seemed hesitant, lips moving like he wanted to say something. After a long pause, he finally forced out. I'm cleaner than those shady alphas, stronger, better shape, and I can cook. Whenever you want, I can satisfy you. Don't go looking for anyone else. 12. After that day, Drake tried even harder. The moment I got home, he'd scoop me up and keep me off the floor all night. He even pulled out the toys and outfits he'd previously refused to use on me. When I came in, I saw Drake sitting on a chair wearing minimal clothes, his hands tightly bound. On the table beside him, some things were neatly arranged. Drake looked up and invited, "Come here." My breath caught, and I almost nose-bled. I stepped forward and reached out to touch. Drake made a muffled sound. I felt a soft weakness in my lower back. Actually, Drake's chest rose and fell rapidly. Every detail showed he was burning with desire. What? He licked his lips, urgency in his voice. This was supposed to be what I wear. Drake's Adam's apple bobbed. Looks like you prefer watching me wear it rather than me wearing it. He glanced sideways. Don't you want to try? I swallowed hard, trembling, and grabbed something from the table, tugging it onto Drake. It was a little rough, and Drake winced in pain, clenching his fists behind his back. I looked at him, hesitating whether to keep going. Drake suddenly looked up and asked, "Archie, do you like it?" I nodded honestly, yes. "So, do you want to reconsider dating me?" Drake's lips curled teasingly. "If we date, I'll wear something different for you every day." "Do whatever you want to me," Drake's voice dropped. "I'm yours." I quickly weighed the pros and cons in my mind. In the end, I put down what I was holding. Still better not. Drake. 13. Drake was showing off, working non-stop day and night, grabbing every chance to pull me into his arms. No matter how much I wanted him, after a while, I started to feel overwhelmed. Working during the day and working him at night was wearing down my back. For the first time, I said no to Drake. "Let's skip tonight," I tried crawling away, "I'm a bit tired." Drake's expression darkened instantly. "Is there someone else?" I panicked, "What are you talking about?" "I'm really just tired. And swollen." Drake must have felt guilty because he didn't push further. I just started to relax when a wave of heat hit me. Turning my head, I saw Drake bow his head. I was so scared my hair stood on end. "What are you doing? Get up now." Drake didn't look up, mumbling something unclear. "I'm helping reduce your swelling." My cheeks burned bright red, like I'd been steamed alive. Who even helps reduce swelling like that? 14. The next day, I dragged myself into the office feeling out of it. My coworker saw me and jumped a little. "What happened? Did someone suck your soul out?" "Something like that." I slumped at my desk, letting out a long sigh. He didn't ask more and pulled out his phone to share about his own love life. "My boyfriend, handsome, right?" The photo showed him cuddling with a guy, both smiling at each other. Just from the picture, I could almost smell the cheesy scent of love. "Alpha?" I tried to figure it out. "Nope, Beta too," he said, pointing behind him. "But the Beta who went on that business trip with me just got an alpha boyfriend." "Lucky, huh?" "You know, Archie, you should really find someone too. Being single forever isn't great. Why don't you tell me what you're looking for? I'll keep an eye out for a good match." A strange feeling of being watched crept over me. I quickly turned around, alert. The office was quiet except for keyboard clicks, everyone busy with their work, no one looking our way. My coworker nudged me, "Archie." "Ah," I snapped back, "my criteria, right. Someone with a steady job, normal values, no serious illnesses, doesn't have to be too handsome, just decent features, maybe some shared hobbies, and if they're an alpha, even better. But if not alpha, that's fine. I'm a beta without pheromones or many advantages, what chance do I have attracting an alpha? Come on, be confident." He squinted, "I'll keep an eye out, but good alphas aren't easy to find." His phone buzzed, cutting off the conversation. He glanced at it, then smiled. "Wait, my boyfriend's calling. I gotta take this." My thoughts were tangled. Beta and alpha? Drake's face popped into my mind. That feeling of being watched returned again. I spun around, trying to spot where it was coming from. Everyone was buried in their work, except the coworker behind me who jumped when I bumped his chair. "What's wrong?" "Sorry." I scanned the room but saw nothing unusual. That feeling vanished the moment I turned around. Maybe a manager caught me slacking off. I rubbed the back of my neck and turned back. Near the end of the day, the sky outside was gray and drizzle started. Soon it turned into a downpour, the rain pattering loudly on the windows. I hesitated, staring at the rain. No umbrella, and the subway station was quite a walk from the office. Guess I'd have to run through it. Following the crowd toward the exit, I was about to dash into the rain when a hand suddenly grabbed my wrist. "Drake? How did you find me here?" I heard you on the phone last time." He looked away and raised the umbrella he was holding. "I saw you didn't bring one. You didn't get wet, right?" Drake paused and rubbed his knuckles on his nose. "Nope. I checked myself, completely dry, even my shoes had no water marks." "Good. Let's head home." 15. Two guys sharing one umbrella meant they both got a little wet. Once inside, Drake grabbed me and headed straight for the bathroom. "Wait." I kicked my legs, trying to break free from his hold. "I'm not ready yet." "I'm not doing anything," he said, lightly patting me. "You're wet. Let me wash you." True to his word, Drake didn't touch me inappropriately. He cleaned me up and then squatted down to scrub the mud off my shoes. That night, Drake asked if he could sleep in the same bed as me. I hesitated, but agreed. His body heat was higher than mine, like a giant hot water bottle. Pressed against him, my consciousness slowly drifted away. Half asleep, I felt someone wrap their arms around my waist. Then something furry rubbed against my neck and shoulder. Murmured words sounded in my ear. "What's wrong, Beta? To me, you're the best, whether Beta or Omega." The next morning, I woke up feeling refreshed. The deep sleep made me consider letting Drake sleep in bed with me more often. "Archie," Drake suddenly called my name. I turned to see him standing in the doorway. He was dressed neatly and holding the few bags he had with him, the pile of bizarre toys I'd bought him. "I'm going home." "Where?" "Home." I was caught off guard. "You have a home?" Drake said nothing. He looked like he wanted to say more but just sighed. Watching him reach for the doorknob, I snapped back to reality. Wait. The words to keep him here got stuck in my throat. Drake and I had just a temporary deal. I had promised not to stop him if he wanted to leave. I stammered, finally managing. "If you don't have anywhere next time, just come to me. My floor space is always saved for you." Drake smiled. "Don't be so sentimental. We'll see each other again soon." He disappeared through the door. As his footsteps faded away, the room grew quiet again. In movies, when people say that, they usually never see each other again. I sniffled and buried myself under the covers. Until the alarm blared louder and louder, I finally dragged myself up with red-rimmed eyes and sluggishly grabbed my bag to head to work. I thought Drake's words were just empty comfort. But then, I really saw Drake again. Only an hour had passed since we parted that morning. I glanced at Drake sitting in the boss's chair, then at the bizarre toys on his desk, and finally looked at the nameplate on the door. Drake was wearing formal clothes, his toned lines wrapped in fabric, looking both restrained and alluring. He watched me, forcing a small smile. "Didn't you say you wanted a boyfriend with a stable job? Is my job stable enough? Am I on your boyfriend shortlist?" I didn't have time to answer. I locked the office door and pulled down the blinds. After that, I walked over and climbed onto Drake's lap. His breath caught as his eyes followed my hands undoing buttons. "We'll talk about this later. Right now, there's something more important you need to cooperate with." Drake's Adam's apple rolled as he reached out and grabbed my ankle. "This is pretty important."